Hello and welcome back to the Lost Planeswalker, and today I wanted to discuss the Evergreen keyword protection and how you can use this keyword to level up your next deck. Protection is a keyword that dates back to Alpha and was a semi-popular mechanic that oftentimes can be categorized as overpowered. Protection is kind of a mix of a few different abilities like Indestructible, Unblockable, and Shroud that makes this as powerful as it is. Even though this ability has been around for over 30 years, there are just over 350 protection cards, which is not a small amount of cards, but could have been higher. Protection started off as an evergreen ability, meaning it was printed on cards from any set. Sometime after that, it was downgraded to deciduous, but then again in 2021 was returned to its evergreen status. Protection has a weird set of different abilities that can be confusing to a lot of players. A good way to help remember these abilities is using an acronym I learned while making this video, DET. You can apply this by saying to yourself, the permanent or player with protection cannot be damaged, enchanted, equipped, or fortified, blocked, or targeted. Well, this DET is not the simplest. It is a good way to help remember how this works, and if you say it a couple of times, you'll get used to it. Now, I'm going to go over the rules in all their glorious detail before diving into cards that are great to add to your deck and show you how you can break protection. But before we do that, if you aren't subscribed to my channel and want to stay tuned for more videos like this, please consider subscribing. I do videos like this covering all kinds of keywords. I do videos covering Commander deck techs and so many more. Thank you so much. I also wanted to give a warning that Protection has one of the largest sections of text explanations I have ever seen. So if you're only interested in seeing some of the cards I have to show, please skip past to the timestamp in the video right now and in the video description below. Alright, let's dive right in. 702.16 Protection. 702.16a. Protection is a static ability. Written protection from quality. This quality is usually a color, as in protection from black, but can be any characteristic value of information. If the quality happens to be a card name, it is treated as such only in the protection ability specifies that the quality is a name. If the quality is a card type, subtype, or supertype, the ability applies to the source that the permanents with the card type, subtype, or supertype into any source not on the battlefield that are that card type, subtype, or supertype. This is an exception to Rule 109.2. 702.16b. A permanent or player with protection can't be the target of spells with the stated quality and can't be targeted by abilities from a source with the stated quality. 702.16c. A permanent or player with protection can't be enchanted by auras that have the stated quality. Such auras attached to the permanent or player with protection will be put into their owner's graveyards as a state-based action. See Rule 704, State-Based Actions. 702.16d. A permanent with protection can't be equipped by equipment that have the stated quality or fortified by fortifications that have the stated quality. Such equipment or fortifications become unattached from that permanent as a state-based action, but remain on the battlefield. See Rule 704, State-Based Actions. 702.16e. Any damage that would be dealt to a source that have the stated quality to a permanent or player with protection is prevented. 702.16f. Attacking creatures with protection can't be blocked by creatures that have the stated quality. 702.16g. Protection from quality A and protection from quality B is a shorthand for protection from quality A and protection from quality B. It behaves as two separate protection abilities. If an effect causes an object with such an ability to lose protection from quality A, for example, that object will still have protection from quality B. 702.16h. Protection from all characteristics is a shorthand for protection from quality A, protection from quality B, and so on for each possible quality the listed characteristics could have. It behaves as multiple separate protection abilities. If an effect causes an object with such an ability to lose protection from quality A, for example, that object would still have protection from quality B, C, and so on. 702.16i. Protection from each set of characteristics, qualities, or players is shorthand for protection from A, protection from B, and so on for each characteristic, quality, or player in that set. It behaves as multiple separate protection abilities. 702.16j. Protection from everything is a variant of the protection ability. A permanent or player with protection from everything has protection from each object regardless of the object's characteristic value. Such a permanent or player can't be targeted by spells or abilities and can't be enchanted by auras. Such a permanent can't be equipped by equipment, fortified by fortifications, or blocked by creatures. All damage that would be dealt to such a permanent or player is prevented. 702.16k. Protection from a player is a variant of the protection ability. A permanent or player with protection from a specific player has protection from each object that player controls and protection from each object that player owns not controlled by another player, regardless of that object's characteristic value. Such a permanent or player can't be targeted by spells or abilities the specified player controls and cannot be enchanted by auras that player controls. Such a permanent can't be equipped by equipment that player controls, fortified by fortifications that player controls, or blocked by creatures that player controls. All damage that would be dealt to such a permanent or player by sources controlled by the specific player or owned by that player but not controlled by another player is prevented. 702.16m. Multiple instances of protection from the same quality on the same permanent or player are redundant. 702.16m. Some auras both give the enchanted creature protection from a quality and say this effect doesn't remove either the specified aura or all auras. This means that the specified auras aren't put into their owner's graveyard as a state-based action. If the creature has another instance of protection from the same quality, those instances affected auras as normal. 702.16p. One aura, Benevolent Blessing, gives the enchanted creature protection from a quality and says the effect doesn't remove certain permanents that are already attached to that creature. This means that when the protection effect starts to apply, any objects with the stated quality that are already attached to the creature, including the aura given to the creature protection, will not be put into their owner's graveyard as a state-based action. Other permanents with the stated quality cannot become attached to the creature. If the creature has other instances of protection from the same quality, those instances affect attached permanents as normal. Now that that's all over, let's take a look at some cool cards that care about protection. There are some creatures and or spells that give you protection from everything. Cards like Progenitus, Hex Drinker, The One Ring, Akroma's Will, and Teferi's Protection are some of those cards. Protection from everything oftentimes equates to game-ending spells or abilities that can either win you the game or help you from losing the game. Some of the downsides about these are, if you're trying to enchant, equip, or fortify a creature after you've already given it protection, you're not going to be able to do so. And if you want to cast any spells that share a color identity with the protective color or whatever you're choosing, isn't going to work either. Protection is a very, very interesting card that if you're trying to cast multiple spells on all of your creatures at the same time, you have to be very careful how you do it. Some cards have a more limited effect, like protection from creatures, in cards like Commander, Ishar, Catilda, Dawnheart Prime, Teysa, Envoy of Ghosts, Baneslayer Angel, and Yawgmoth Thran Physician. These cards have some theme that can be fun when building decks, but oftentimes it really only matters when you're playing limited like formats because the likelihood that you'll actually get to use the protection from that certain creature type is pretty low. Except Yawgmoth, protection from humans is actually probably pretty good because humans are one of the most, if not the most popular creature type in Magic the Gathering. Going a step forward, we have cards that care about protection from a color, or you being able to choose a color for instantaneous responses. Shield of Duty and Reason, Mask of Law and Grace, Shelter, God's Willing, Malakir Bloodwitch, Sarah's Emissary, Akroma Angel of Wrath, Animar Soul of the Elements, Giver of Runes, Sajiri Shelter, Commander Plate, Karmic Guide, and Mother of Runes are some of these cards. These protection abilities are oftentimes very powerful, especially when you have the ability to choose what you want to protect against what kind of colors. These can save you or your creatures in a pinch. Now, my favorite set of cards with protection are the Swords Up. And what I mean by that is Sword of Body and Mind, Sword of Feast and Famine, Sword of Fire and Ice, Sword of Forge and Frontier, Sword of Hearth and Home, Sword of Light and Shadow, Sword of Once and Future, Sword of Sinew and Steel, Sword of Truth and Justice, and Sword of War and Peace. All of these swords give you protection from two colors, or all of the Ravnica guilds basically. You can have protection from one of each guild. These can provide a range of different uses and abilities that have kind of fallen off in the most recent years as their cost to cast and equip don't always equal out to the payout you get from them. In addition, some playgroups find protection to be unfavorable. This ability to kind of instantaneous end the game without anybody being able to really do anything unless they they have a counter spell or something, is kind of annoying. I still find all of these really super fun, and occasionally I get to add one of these to my deck when I can find it adds some good value. Now, how can we break protection when our opponents have it? There are a few ways to deal with protection, but it oftentimes has us dealing with our own stuff too. One of the only ways to deal with protection is to cast spells that affect all creatures. Spells like Farewell, Cyclonic Rift, and Descend Upon the Sinful are all cards that don't say target creature, but all creatures. This gets around protection's ability to protect from targeting. These abilities and cards will oftentimes set you back, but if your opponents have you stuck in kind of a hard place, this might be your only solution. One of the other great ways to get around protection is Trample. Trample works by letting you assign lethal damage and letting the rest go over to a planeswalker or opponent, whoever you chose to attack. I didn't realize this is how this worked, and I've lost games because of this. It's very strong, and even when you think you're safe because you have protection, Trample can just run right over you. Trample is often a win con because it's so hard to stop, and it is a great way to overpower players who are using protection. Because the way this works is you're assigning lethal damage, and that doesn't mean the creature has to die. Just like Indestructible, if you can assign lethal damage, Indestructible will prevent it from taking that damage. And the same thing happens here with protection. That protection is preventing that damage. You might be able to get around protection by playing spells that say damage can't be prevented, and this might overrule protection, but I'm not super sure how that works, so I'm not going to get into it, but that might be something else to look into. Protection is a great evergreen keyword that has the potential to be stronger than any other ability in the game. Protection is really cool, and I hope you'll add this to your next deck. Thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate you watching my videos. If you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so. It would really mean a lot. And if you have a favorite card that has or gives protection, please leave in the comments down below. I always love seeing what kind of cards you guys come up with because sometimes it's cards I've never seen before, and that's really sweet. And if you want to help me out in another way, please consider leaving a like and sharing this video with a friend. It really helps me get more of my videos to more people and helps me grow. And today's Scryfall card of the day is Mischievous Chimera. Some curiosities are best left alone. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.